Live from the 13 Now Digital News Desk, this is the Friday Night Fever Afterburn, sponsored by Peden Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome to Friday Night Fever Afterburn. Week 9 officially over. That means we have just 2 more weeks left in the high school football regular season. And it has blown by.
Yeah.
We had a lot of big matchups tonight, and we're going to start with the scores. Then we're going to move on to the highlights, talk a little bit about those. Kaylee, take us through our first bit of scores.
First game, Walton and Blountstown Braves hosting the Tigers. Score correction, that's 28-19, not 28-13, that we said in the show. And then Vernon visiting North Bay Haven over at Tommy Oliver. Bucks pick up a shutout 41-0 over Vernon. Port St. Joe heading over to Santa Rosa to visit the Seahawks. Port St. Joe picks up that win 20-10. And Liberty County visiting Holmes County. Holmes County also with the shutout 46-0.
We're going to head on over to Freeport High School. The Bulldogs, they put up a battle against the Baker Gators. Not too much there. The Baker offense 52-35 in favor of Baker. Over at Bozeman, Bozeman was hosting the undefeated Chipley Tigers. That one, all Tigers, they went up big 28-0, and then they go on to win 42-20. Then we got Bay on the road at Fort Walton Beach, 29-8 over Fort Walton Beach. Arnold not so lucky, 51-0. They get shut out by the Trojans.
Then we have Franklin County visiting the undefeated Sneads Pirates. They pick up another win, 41-13. Mariana hosting the tough Northview. Northview picks up that win, 43-14. And the Hornets, Cottondale over to Petula Charter. They pick up that win, 52-18 over Cottondale.
So we had a lot of games going on tonight. Gonna look down into our comments to see a lot of people here. Hello, Mr. Bracken. Hello, Mr. Pope. Hello, Miss Willis. We got a lot of people down here. Mr. Jones, hello. Port St. Joe, we had that score 20-10 over South Walton. Port St. Joe getting a big win over a talented South Walton Seahawks team. Got Go Chipley Tigers 8-0. That is right. Chipley looking quite dominant once again. They come out big. I saw a score getting a little closer in the second half, but we were talking to Coach this week who's saying, a lot of times in the second half we kind of pull some of those big playmakers. So
yeah.
We weren't there, didn't see how it finished, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Let's go to our game of the week, Walton and Blountstown, and I'm going to let you break this one down for us.
Walton had me fooled in the first half. There wasn't too much action from Walton. There's a ton of top players on that team, so didn't get to see too much of that. But they came back in that second half, it looks like, winning, 28-19. But Blountstown looked good. We talked about, Josh Pope being back from that concussion. He looked really good. Also, you have another key player for Blountstown coming back, Jordan Pride. He looked great in that game too. So it was a very kind of even matchup while I was there. Nothing too crazy, no insane plays, but good D, a lot of good defense, and it was a good game while I was there, but I think the second half was a lot more exciting looking at that score.
Right, and like you said, and you were talking a lot about, the incoming player of Jordan Pride looking really good, and you'll see in a couple minutes, here's him with the kick return, and then we'll see him with the touchdown. He's a big playmaker for those Tigers, but Walton, they just have guys all over the field. And then, of course, the Braves, they are up a couple classifications on Blountstown, larger team, larger school. Blountstown looked like they had a legitimate shot here, but Walton pulling away at the end, 28-19. And I would say, again, we have a tough time watching these games and kind of trying to decipher how it finished, without actually being there. But, it looks like Walton must have really turned it on in the second half. These are two teams that are going to be around in the playoffs for sure. Blountstown would have really liked this one, but Walton really couldn't. They really did not want to lose 3 games in a row after falling 2 to district opponents. So again, Walton 28-19, a big game up there in the Funiac Springs. we're going to talk about Port St. Joe and South Walton because, that's another one where most years that is our game of the week. Last year, it was our game of the week when it was in Port St. Joe. This year, also another great matchup.
Yeah.
Port St. Joe gets the better of it, but what did you think seeing this one take place over in Santa Rosa Beach?
Well, I think these are both good teams. South Walton's just struggling a little bit. Right there, that's one of the key players. Having DJ Oliver back for the Sharks, I feel like that says it in itself. There's a ton of great players on both teams, but having DJ Oliver back for the Tiger Sharks, I think is just a key piece for them, and it's just good to see him back on the field. We saw him have a big game over at Bozeman last week and another big game here. So, and some quarterback injuries, I think that always kind of hurts. I know South Walton, they use Wells and Carson a little bit, but having a quarterback go down is never easy.
Right, and like Thomas was telling us tonight, both of those quarterbacks going down.
Devin
so
Catino
you have two quarterbacks,
and
then they said both of the South Walton quarterbacks got hurt tonight, and Devin Catino. So just a lot happening over there. We'll have to check and make sure that those guys are moving forward, heading towards the playoffs. But Port St. Joe, they're really laying it on. What's that, 6 in a row for the Tiger Sharks? After falling to Bay in week 2, a very good Bay team with DJ Oliver out, they now have put up 6 wins in a row. So Port St. Joe, they are sitting pretty, and they're going to be facing that Blountstown Tigers team next week. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because that's something we haven't got into, and something that I was mentioning on the show was our SSAC games. That's the Sunshine State Athletic Conference. It basically is the Class 1R's version of having districts, even though that there aren't any districts. The SSAC selects an opponent for the teams that are in it. There's only 8 teams that are in the SSAC this year, and they deemed Blountstown the 1 seed. They deemed Port St. Joe the 2 seed, Sneads the 3 seed, Holmes County the 4 seed. We'll get into the rest of those teams, but a lot of kind of controversy there this week because Port St. Joe beat Blountstown head-to-head. Sneads was undefeated, and by the FHSAA's rankings, the number 1 team out of those schools. Sneads got put as the 3 seed, so they felt a little snubbed this week. Blountstown, they have, like we see, playing Walton, a very tough strength of schedule. But I feel like that head-to-head game with Port St. Joe, or Port St. Joe wins, both teams not healthy. But that's kind of got to be a tell, and there's kind of a lot of a mixture there of that on, why is Blountstown the 1 seed with Port St. Joe beating them? Obviously a very talented team, the Tigers are. But, next week is when those SSAC games are going to be played. So we're going to have Blountstown hosting Port St. Joe, and we're going to have Sneads hosting Holmes County. I was telling you earlier this week, I would have loved to see Sneads and Port St. Joe with a DJ Oliver, Jason Patterson matchup. I'm sure a lot of people would have liked that as well. But what do you think of how the SSAC played out?
I think it's definitely interesting. Port St. Joe picked up that win over Blountstown at home this season already. And like you kind of touched on, both of those teams a little bit unhealthy at that time. So, now you have Josh Pope coming back from his injury. You have Jordan Pride now there for Blountstown. And then you have DJ Oliver coming back from his injury for the Tiger Sharks. Devin Catino, hopefully nothing holding him back from playing next week. And there's a ton of players on Port St. Joe, that team as well, and obviously on Blountstown. So I think it's going to be, if they're at their healthiest and can play a good game, there's a lot of penalties the last time they played. So, and Blountstown at home, I haven't been there yet, but from going,
great atmosphere.
From going,
right
maybe
now,
not on a Friday night,
area.
I'm excited to see that. So I think that'll be a very tough game, and I think these two teams will match up really well against each other.
Right, and that's going to be a huge momentum as we head into the end of the season. We're going to look at the comments a little bit. I got to play the Bucks cheerleader clip. Is that possible, Spencer? Do we have the cheerleaders in there? We'll work on that. We played it in the show, but we'll work on getting those North Bay Haven Buccaneers cheerleaders in here. We got who is still undefeated besides Chipley. We got the Sneads Pirates. They are still undefeated, and again getting another big win over Franklin County tonight.
Yeah.
Who's going to make the call on Mosley versus Niceville score? That's going to be a game next week. We'll get to the rest of those matchups pretty soon. But Mosley versus Niceville. Mosley's going to be at Niceville. That's going to be on a Thursday night. We were just talking about that. Might have to send. We normally don't travel all the way over to Okaloosa County, but we might have to send Kaylee over there next week because that is going to be a big game. If Mosley pulls it out, that will really turn their season around.
Yeah.
Niceville is a very, very tough team. They are one of the better teams in the state of Florida through all classifications. So Mosley definitely has their hands full. Not sure if I'm quite qualified to project a score on that one, but Mosley, they got some great athletes. And Spencer was telling us, we saw earlier, Randy Pittman was named the region player of the year for the classification, or what was that? We saw that earlier on Twitter, but Randy Pittman picking up a big award from the state. So, clearly a fantastic player, going to be playing at UCF next year. But we was the Pace Navarre game covered tonight. I'm not sure if we have that score anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
They won. Navarre won 23 to 21. I'm a little behind
down here. Yeah, we got a. How did the SSAC do the seeding? Well, that's a good question. I will say, obviously, they put a lot more into strength of schedule than wins like the FHSA does. The FHSA balances a lot. Some people like the max prep system a little better than the FHSAA. Seems like nobody likes the SSAC system for rankings. But yes, Bluntstown gets the 1 seed. They now, before tonight, had 3 losses, now have 4 losses. St. Joe with the 1 and the head-to-head win. You tell me. Your guess is as good as mine. Sneed's undefeated. Again, 2 teams we were talking about that, didn't necessarily have as strong of a strength of schedule was the 2 undefeated teams, Chipley and Sneed's. But Sneed's, rolling past everybody. Chipley rolling past everybody. Bozeman's no slouch, and they cruise past them 42-6 at the halftime. So clearly 2 great teams. We got to go Pirates. That's right. Sneed's Pirates still undefeated. Starters did not play in the second half. That is confirmed from Mr. Tate. So, yes, Kaylee should go to Niceville on Thursday night. That is the best atmosphere by far. That is what I have personally never been to a Niceville football game. I've seen lots of videos. I've heard lots of tales.
I've seen some Twitter videos.
Lots of videos from there. I've heard not just one of the best in the area, one of the best in the entire country. They fill the stadium. Wow. It is rocking. It's really unreal what they do up in Niceville. The Eagles, they always have a fantastic football team, fantastic atmosphere. We would love to see your Mosley Dolphins pull off a big win, but we'll have to wait to Thursday night to find out. We're going to look back at some of the games from tonight. Let's go to my game, North Bay Haven and Vernon. Vernon coming off their first win of the year. I was over there at this game. North Bay Haven, they took a tough loss to Rutherford last week. Rutherford getting their first win. Vernon, they just, honestly, they're very young. They didn't have the size to compete with, the larger North Bay Haven. North Bay Haven came right out of the gate, swinging, scoring on every possession. Vernon really couldn't get a whole lot going on the offensive side of the ball. Lakota Johnson, he was doing it all. The man with the wheels, he was all over the place. One person I was shouting out last week was Quante Spencer. He came over on the sidelines to me and was like, I don't even know if I'm going to get the ball because we're sharing it with everybody tonight. It's a nice fest. Willie Hawley was doing his thing, as you see him right there. Everybody was getting theirs in the first half. North Bay Haven, similar to Chipley, taking out those starters in the second half. You're going to like this one, the kick return for touchdown from Lakota Johnson. Coach was saying, Lakota Johnson, whether it's football, whether it's baseball, this kid's going to be a Division I athlete, and clearly sure looks like that. Only a sophomore. He's got a very bright future ahead. There's Quante getting his first score tonight. So that man is a beast. North Bay Haven doing their thing. This one, not really a ball game from the start to finish. 41-0. North Bay Haven gets the win. We're going to talk about Holmes County now. What did you think of this one? Holmes County losing, a tough one last week to Freeport. Freeport coming behind and winning. Looks like they wanted revenge and got it. Getting a big win tonight. Talk to me what you saw from this matchup.
I mean, talk about a comeback story. And like I said in the show, their 4th shutout of this season, which is, crazy. Picked up 5 wins, and 4 out of the 5 were shutouts. And, Landon Lumpkin looked good. Just like you said, he wanted that revenge. So Holmes County was impressive tonight. And, Spencer said, he asked, isn't Liberty County a pretty good team? I said, yeah. So to see them just shut down Liberty County like that, They proved that they're a contender for sure.
Right. Holmes County, and like we mentioned in the SSAC, Holmes County will get matched up with Sneed's. We saw that matchup earlier in the year.
Yeah.
We went to that one. It was our game of the week back then. Holmes County, they stuck around probably better than most other teams have stuck around with Sneads this year, which, isn't saying much because Sneads really has put on a show this year. But, with a 46-0 win over, a pretty solid playoff level Liberty County, you got to think that they're coming, for revenge against Sneads next week. And, I'm looking at the comments. I do see Liberty County is missing about 6 to 7 starters, so we don't have the the full story there, but clearly Holmes County dominating
able to take advantage of that.
So definitely taking advantage of it for sure. I will say we are not able to get the clip of the North Bay Haven cheerleaders from tonight, but I will work on getting that to you if you want to reach out to me. We can get the clip to you personally. If you reach out to me, my email is sgranville, like my last name, @WMVB.com. Reach out to me. I will get you the clip for sure. Don't worry about it. Sorry we can't get it on tonight in Afterburn. We're having some technical issues there. But going to come back to Miss Edenfield. Makes no sense. Sneads should be in the top of the SSAC. That seems to be the story this week. A lot of people thinking that Sneads is the #1 seed. And whether you think it's Port St. Joe or Sneads, Port St. Joe with the tougher strength of schedule with a 1 loss, or Sneads with not as strong a strength of schedule and no losses, flip-flop there. But a lot of people thinking that's the 1 and 2 seed. I know Coach Jones, Coach Tanner Jones, was telling me this week, they would have liked to match up with Sneads as well. They wanted to see Jason Patterson. They wanted to have that matchup because now at this point, we could see Port St. Joe and Blountstown in the preseason, the regular season twice, and possibly in the playoffs. Because if you get Sneads at the 1 seed, FHSAA doesn't care about these SSAC rankings. They're still going to put Sneads, as a 1 seed or a 2 seed. Then that's going to match up Blountstown and Port St. Joe in the playoffs. So we're probably going to see them a grand total of 3 times, not including the preseason, 4 times with the preseason. So I know that's a tough matchup, a lot of pride between those 2 schools.
Yeah.
But like Coach Jones said, it'd be nice to see a different matchup there.
Well, and Coach Thomas, a week ago, too, before, when I talked to him before week 8, he talked about they most likely thought they were going to match up with Port St. Joe, too. So definitely a surprise to all the teams affected.
Right. And I see this is new information to me. Liberty County and Bozeman's game is going to be moved to Thursday because of volleyball region semifinals on Friday night. That right there is honestly such a disappointment to me, is that these volleyball games are being played on a Friday night, because these teams are very talented. They're some of the best in the entire state of Florida, and sadly they're going to be overshadowed by football on Friday night. We have to put together this show every week with all these highlights, so we can't go to those games. But with that game being on Thursday, that'll definitely help some of the Bozeman and Liberty County fans get to that game and really cheer on those teams, because we'll get to that tomorrow, with the brackets being released for volleyball. But I would expect, Liberty County and Bozeman to possibly be maybe the 1 and 2 seed, probably the 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 seed. Liberty County probably going to secure that 1 seed in the region. But 2 of the best volleyball teams in the state, 2 legitimate state title contenders, and I hope that those fans, Liberty County and Bozeman, are able to get to those matches. But yes, a great night of football, Coach Olds. I would 100% have to agree. Is there any game that we didn't get to? Chipley and Bozeman. Yes, we've been talking about it nonstop, but we haven't actually seen the highlights. Chipley, they probably had the best highlights of anybody tonight. Yeah. So what did you think of this one, Kaylee?
Well, I went over to Chipley this week to talk and, see how they're doing in their undefeated season so far. And strength of schedule is a big critique for Chipley. People say, they don't play a tough schedule. Marcus Buchanan, their head coach, said, we don't know the schedule or how these teams are going to play out when we're making the schedule before the fall. And so you never know how they play. And Bozeman is one of those teams that has, they've had a couple losses, but they're a strong team. They've looked good in a lot of games. But I think Chipley kind of silenced some people. I mean, they've proven it to me. I mean, coming out with just that big win over Bozeman, because Bozeman is a very good team. So I think the Chipley Tigers really proved it, kind of proved everyone wrong tonight.
I would 100% I have to agree. They have athletes all over the field. And, we're going to have to wait until, we don't really know much about this Alabama team that they're playing next week. But apparently they're pretty good. They're undefeated. Should be a tough match. That's going to be on Thursday night. Again, we'll get to those next week's matchups in just a minute. But Chipley, they've just plowed through their competition this year. I do see Mr. Bracken with the comments. Sam, who's your dark horse this year? If we date back to last year, probably about this time, I made the comment, Chipley is my dark horse. Chipley is my dark horse. Watch out for them. They're kind of flying under the radar. They had a couple losses. And, not to, toot my own horn, but Chipley was the last team standing last year. They went to the Final Four. They were my dark horse. For me, it's hard to pick a dark horse because that kind of gives the connotation of, they're underestimated. And so right now with a Chipley, a Port St. Joe, and a Sneeds all being right there in the top 10 in the state, they're kind of, there's kind of a sense there of, how can they be the dark horse if they're one of the favorites? So I'm not going to pick them. My dark horse this year is the team that suffered a tough loss tonight up in Definiak Springs, the Blountstown Tigers. They are, going to be getting healthy. They are banged up. That's now their 4th loss. Next week's going to be very interesting with Port St. Joe. If they pull off a win, that's going to be huge. But moving into the playoffs, bringing in somebody like Jordan Pride, that's huge to the team. At the 1A level, we know how big one player can make a difference. Jordan Pride coming back from IMG, we saw the catch that he made tonight. Whenever you have an athlete like that can just spread the field, that can get guys out of the box, or, simply line them up in the backfield and let them make a play. Throw a screen pass to him, let him make a play. On the defensive side of the ball, he's going to be tracking down some of those guys. Jordan Pride was a state-level sprinter last year, a state-level high jumper, and clearly he's got the hands. So that's going to be my dark horse. Are they who I'm picking to come out of the region? Maybe not, but they are my dark horse. I do like the 3 teams that are favorites, Sneeds, Chipley, and Port St. Joe. But when it comes to dark horse, I'm going to say, hey, told you so. Watch out for Blountstown. In a few weeks, they're going to be making a run in the playoffs, in my opinion. Next week, Chipley will show. I would agree. Play 8-0 Excel next Thursday. Watch out for Northview. They'll be tough in 1R. Yeah, they're not my dark horse. They're probably my favorite. I think Northview is probably the favorite to come out of the region as far as 1R football goes. Bay, yes, they had a great night tonight. Picking up another win. That's 7 in a row for the Tornadoes. 7 in a row for the Tornadoes. They got Rutherford next week. What did you think from the scores tonight? Any that really stood out to you as a surprise?
No, nothing crazy to me. I think there was a lot of good matchups and a lot of close games. So, I think this is one of the best weeks of high school football. I think week 9 there was a lot of excitement and a lot of back and forth games. Not too many blowouts. There was a couple. We saw a couple shutouts, but it was a good week.
Definitely did not disappoint. Well, Spencer, let's take a look at what we got on board for next week. Again, we've mentioned a couple of these already. Niceville hosting Mosley, Excel at Chipley, and then if that is right what we saw with Bozeman and Liberty County, that one should be, I believe, at Bozeman. I'll have to go back and check that. I'm all over the place at this point. But then moving to Friday, North Bay Haven will be on the road at South Walton.
At
South
Bozeman.
Walton will be looking to bounce back from a loss to Port St. Joe tonight. Rickards will be at Arnold.
Another
Rutherford
tough
at
district
Bay.
opponent for Arnold.
Lots of tough district opponents. Basically, at this point, it's mostly all district opponents here, except for Class 1R, who doesn't have districts. And then, like we saw, Bozeman is hosting Liberty County. Who we got next, Kaylee? I don't know.
We have Freeport over at Graceville, Holmes County at Sneeds for another game, Cottondale at Vernon, Port St. Joe at Blountstown, and FSU High School at Mariana.
And we got Pensacola at Walton. Walton getting a big win tonight. Wee Hitchcock will be at Trenton. Again, that's one that I'm not really sure because Trenton doesn't have a win this year. We will beat Trenton, and somehow we was going on the road at Trenton. I don't know what the SSAC is doing, what's in their coffee, but Petula Charter Academy, they're going to be at Franklin County. Petula got a big win against, Cottondale tonight?
Cottondale, yeah.
So Franklin County, that's going to be a tough one for them. Spencer, do we have that surprise video that is it working now for us? I don't know if if Miss Toya is still on here, but if you are on here, we do, I believe, have the video for the North Bay Haven cheerleaders. We'll try to get that going. Those girls were awesome tonight. There we go. There's the North Bay Haven cheerleaders. Do we have audio? Okay, they can hear it. We can't hear it. But yes, North Bay Haven cheerleaders, they were awesome tonight. We had a couple of takes, the first go around. Never always, it's a tough line. It really is. There's no channel. There's 13. It's not 7. There's a couple. They have a lot of, names thrown at them over the season. So they did a great job tonight. And, they got a big win tonight on senior night. So I know they were excited. But before we go, anything else that you want to bring attention to? Want to mention anything else that you saw that you want to really stand out? Who do you think should be our game of the week next week?
I think it was already the game of the week earlier in the season. They're matching up again. I think Port St. Joe at Blountstown has to be, and I want to go to Blountstown. I have not been there on a Friday night, and that was something, talking to them before the season, kind of asking about what Blountstown is like on a Friday night, and they say the town shuts down. It's amazing, and I want to experience that. So,
well, I got to experience it a couple of times last year, and it was awesome. I love going to Bulls Field. I do remember some of my coldest nights from last season were at Bulls Field. It's getting to that time of year, so we'll have to see what it looks like next week. But again, Blountstown and Port St. Joe, that should be a great one. But next week's week 10. We have 2 weeks left for the entire regular season. Blountstown, like we mentioned, has their bye week on week 11. So depending on how the playoffs shape out, they could have 2 weeks off, 1 week off, but they've played straight through. So they really have gotten no break.
No.
Blountstown and Port St. Joe, that's going to be
a little beaten up, but they're definitely sticking through it.
That's right. And we got Mr. Brock saying game of the week or Mosley at Niceville. Unfortunately, we got to have it on Friday, so we probably will go with Port St. Joe at Blountstown, but
may still go over there.
We shall see. We'll try to have those Niceville Mosley highlights regardless of how it goes next week on Afterburn. But that's going to do it for us. Week 9, that is in the books. If you want to go catch all the highlights from tonight, head over to mypanhandle.com. You can see all the scores there as well. But until next week, we've had a fun one. We'll see you at week